Okay, so this is a wrap up of my profile series. I was just talking about the sixth line. I thought, I just want to process some things with these profile lines. I got to say that my first of all, my college degree is in speech communication, and my college professors would be horrified to know that I did not create an outline for these talks. And it's funny because my one line is a little insecure that I didn't do it the correct way, and maybe I didn't all these things that happen where I feel like I could have done better, could have made it more fluid for you. But I also I also kind of save that for deeper experimenting. As a 1-3, it's been really impactful for me to unpack my profile and to understand myself on this level, because that one line, like I was just saying, it does get a little insecure about maybe not doing it right, and what if I didn't say enough, and what if I didn't share enough. But that 3 line jumps into life and just says, fuck it, let's go, let's figure this thing out, let's just try it, see how it feels, and then move from there. So I feel like this whole thing has been very much 1-3. My 3 lines like, okay, let's dig in and let's just jump over here, and then my one line is like, okay, well, here, I'll just share the wisdom as we go. It's really fun to observe when it comes out, and it always amuses me. And one thing I wanted to just kind of unpack, maybe for myself, maybe it'll help you too, is the personal versus transpersonal life paths that happen and the energetics inside of these lines. Because as a 1-3, I am very much personal. I'm the foundational profile. It's so much introspection, and it's me figuring out stuff for me. And that doesn't mean that I don't need people, though. Like, here's the interesting thing, and there's so many other things in my chart that show that I tend to be a lone wolf. But there's also some trauma that has kind of made me just want to be a lone wolf. But nobody is meant to do anything by themselves. And I see this happening a lot. Some people have reached out to me and say, they're just are kind of they're tired of life, they're tired of what's happening, and they've just hermited in their house. They just don't want to leave. They just want to be alone. And I get it. I totally get it. But nobody is meant to do this thing alone at all, ever. It's this wonderful binary that happens. Like, profile is an example of how much of a binary species we are. Ra always talked about this when he talks about profiles. We are binaries. We have these opposites that we're always navigating. And the profile is an example of that in so many ways. Just look at the 1-3. The one wants the foundation. It wants to know all the things before it takes a step forward. It wants to build solid ground. The 3 line doesn't give a fuck about solid ground. It just goes and life bumps into it. So even if you do build a solid ground, life will bump into it and probably, at the very least, build some cracks in that foundation, if it doesn't absolutely dissolve the foundation that the one line tried so hard to build. And it can be exhausting if you're stuck in the not self, which I was for so long. And when we look at like the 2-4, the 2-4 is such a funny opposite, where the hermit just really wants to be alone and do its own thing and like go away. But the 4 line really gets its opportunities from its network. It needs the other people to understand where it belongs. And so there's this dynamic of aloneness and connection. And it's just so fascinating to look at it all, and to balance the energies of being human. And I am so grateful to human design for the roadmap to understand how to be human in this space. I hear people talk about, oh, well, the graph isn't that pretty, like the body graph isn't pretty, and it's just so mechanical, and it's just so numerical. And, I want it to be prettier and flowier and more feminine. But I think it's such a beautiful balance of masculine and feminine. And again, when we think about the origin of this system is younger than me. It was downloaded in the 80s. So let's think about the origin of this system. Ra is a white dude who has the resources to hang out in Ibiza, re- regardless of anything else. Like, from what I understand, his dwelling place wasn't like super fancy, but regardless, he was chilling in Ibiza. And again, a grown white man in the 80s. Also a 5-1 manifester with gate 51 as his sun gate. And so for me, when people get upset at him and say things about him or like judge the wording that he chose, I just look at that and I think, look at this perspective though. Like, this was his frequency. This is human design, to talk about our differentiation and to really embody your frequency of what you're here to share. So obviously, if I got the download, the wording would be very different as a 1-3 mental projector with the experiences that I've had versus uh versus Ra. And so take the perspective when you're looking at these things, when you're looking at all the things. And it's beautiful to see the mutation that's happening in the system and how some people are softening the language a little bit. And and that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other fascinating thing with my 1-3, because my one line wants it to be exactly how it's supposed to be, supposed to. And this is the original languaging, let's do this. But my 3 line knows that there's no such thing as supposed to, that mutations happen all the time, and that's what we're here for. And my defined mind wants it, like, agrees with the 1 line, wants it to be supposed to, but my open body says, you know what? It's not up to you. Like, I can feel the discomfort people get when they hear things. I remember the discomfort I felt with some of the things when I first discovered this, and I'm like, I'm an investigator martyr. What does that mean? And riding across a rulership, that feels really overwhelming. And I'm single definition. Does that mean I'm going to be single forever? Because it feels that way. And no inner authority. Like, all I wanted was some connection to my intuition, and you're telling me I have none. These are the thoughts that went through my mind when I was first looking at my chart. And despite all that, underneath it all was this deep peace and this deep sense of knowing that this system will give the guidance needed for me to take the next steps. So this is, I wasn't really sure where this was going. I just had this urge to press record and to talk and to share, because there's no need for it, because that's the other thing that this has helped me with is I think of my undefined heart quite often, and I realize how many times I felt the need to prove myself or to explain myself or to give meaning to my choices. And I don't have to do that. I have nothing to prove to anybody. And that's such a beautiful thing to be able to lean into that. Such a beautiful thing. And that's a gift that the system has given me. And that is one reason why I'm so passionate about sharing it, is to empower other people in this way too. And to give them the freedom to explore their own energy, because you can go as deep or as shallow as you want in this system. You really can. Because there's so much depth in the shallowness. It's like the ocean. Like, some people just want to stand with their feet in the water. Like, they just want to stand ankle deep and feel the waves go back and forth and stare at the horizon and just feel the sun on their face. Some people want to sit in a chair, like deep enough to where they can sit in the water and feel the waves go back and forth and just be encircled by the water, but not overwhelmed by the water. And some people want to get on a ship and go to the depths. Like, they want to go explore the horizon. They want to go to all the places. And then some people want to get in a submarine and go as far deep as they can to get everything. You know, no one interaction is correct. Correct only means what's correct for you. It's only correct for you. Like, and you might have different aspects at different times. That's fine. Sometimes you might want to just have your ankles in. Sometimes you want to explore, what is it like if I sit in a chair in the water? What is it like if I go dive in the waves as they're coming? You know, it's okay. Everything is okay. It's all part of your experiment. It's all part of where you are. It's all part of your process. And there's no shame in it. And I think that's all for this transmission. I hope that this supported you in some way. I feel like it was just a bit of a mental download that came through me. So let me know. Let me know if anything hit you in the feels, or if it brought up any questions. I would love to hear from you. And thank you. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me and for your support and your love. And it just means so much. I love you. Hope you have a beautiful day.